Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. We're going to be covering the Tenet Envoy in this video. This is a heavily requested weapon. This was a weapon that was more or less, in terms of like their kill rate, how it delivered its damage, was a competitor in the same class as like the Kuvazar and the Kuva Brahma. But this was sort of like the quote-unquote corpus answer to that, if you will. So we're going to be covering a couple builds. Um, there are two main builds basically. There's the AoE build and there's the direct damage build. Obviously, the AoE build is the one that you're mainly using it for. That being said, the direct damage build deals so much damage, it's at least worthwhile to answer, or to at least show what it is. That being said, for this video, I'm gonna be honest. The meta element for this weapon is Toxin. Okay. Reason being is the weapon on the AoE has innate cold. So if you get a progenitor element that's Toxin, you get viral for free. But that's the Grineer killing build. I did not go with that build. I actually went for a more raw damage build. So just keep that in mind when you're seeing the elements. I'll make sure to point it out. I'm not changing my magnetic build. It works too well for what I like doing. But just keep in mind, if you're thinking about doing like a longer run, like an hour plus Steel Path, and you're doing Grineer and you want to kill Grineer with it, you're gonna want the Toxin element on it. So anyway, let's take a look. We'll do a beginner build because this is one of the weapons that's kind of popular with people running their first sister. So we'll look at a build that maybe they can afford. We're going to do base damage, not crit delay, point strike, vital sense. So we have base damage, crit chance, crit damage, pretty basic. We're going to do split chamber. The next mod isn't absolutely mandatory, but I do mod for reload. Reason being is generally if you're trying to use something, you just want to kind of run around the map and kill shit with it. That being said, this weapon does have something called an Envoy system, where it has a built-in magazine reload, like say like an eject magazine or the synth set passive. So this isn't truly mandatory, but if you just want to run around and shoot stuff, you kind of got to put this on because the weapon innately has a 4-second reload on it. But if you're Gauss, if you're a Chad Gauss enjoyer, you might not even need this, depending on what your power strength is. Or you just want to make the reload almost instant and you want to put it on. So this mod has some flex to it. It's not truly mandatory. I run it though. Okay, so the other mandatory mod is going to be an ammo mutation. Whatever ammo mutation mod you have, slot it here. Does use prime sniper though, so keep that in mind. So vigilante supplies is probably going to be one of the easier to get mods. Also, regular sniper ammo mutation would give you more ammo mutation. So for what it is, that's sniper ammo mutation if you're having troubles with ammo. If you want slightly less but the chance to RNG more damage, this is the way to go if you want to see the occasional orange. Okay, so the other 3 mod slots, to be honest, are pretty much flex slots. It depends what you're going to put here. It basically depends on what you're shooting at. If you decided to go with the viral build, you went with like the meta, like hyper efficient build, 100 munitions, more multi-shot, and AoE would be a damn good option. Firestorm. Even though it's a smaller bonus than Prime, we're keeping this regular star chart friendly. So we, down on the bottom, if you got a Toxin Envoy, down here at the bottom, because I have no elements modded, what you would see down here was viral. Okay. So the other option would be, if you don't need to mod for viral, what do you mod for this last slot? Basically whatever you want. You could do more base damage with heavy caliber, or you could do more multi-shot with one of the vigilante mods. Vigilante armaments would work out pretty well here. Get the multi-shot up to 2.5, which means like every other time you shoot, you're either going to shoot 2 or you're going to shoot 3 shots each time. It would be a nice damage bonus, especially when your only multi-shot mod is split chamber. Eventually, later in the game, you will get stronger mods. So Vigilante Armaments definitely has a place here, and the damage isn't even that bad. Especially because it increases your chance to RNG a better hit, right? So this would be a really good regular star chart build. If you don't care about Vigilante Armaments or you're missing one of these mods, Fire Rate would be kind of the name of the game. So something like Speed Trigger, if you don't have Firestorm, if you don't have Vigilante Armaments, and you have Firestorm would go here. Or you could do, if you don't have Firestorm, but you have the Vigilante mods, you could do this also, and it would be even more damage, right? But you wouldn't hit as many enemies, so technically your total damage per second would go down. So, okay, so this would be a couple of examples, and obviously if you don't have fast hands, just use a regular one, wherever is it? There we go. So something like this, if you just want to run around and shoot the weapon. But if you're comfortable using the Envoy system and swapping back and forth, you don't need fast hands at all. So you would have a flex slot, you could put whatever you wanted there, and it would be up to you if you rolled a Toxin Envoy. So let's go to Steel Path, and we'll talk about the shinier mods. Okay, Arcane goes to Merciless. We'll start incorporating Primed. Primed Mutation or Vigilante Supplies. Whichever one you prefer. If you don't have an issue with ammo, Vigilante Supplies is fine. If you find yourself having issues with ammo, obviously get that mutation, the primed one. Our multi-shot goes to Galvanized Chamber. We have moved Merciless off the modding onto the Arcane, which means we're going to have space for Prime Firestorm to have a dedicated spot. Crit is still Vital Sense. We're going to upgrade our crit mod, or our crit chance mod, to critical delay. Since we want to run around and shoot with this weapon, primed fast hands is a must. Get that reload down as much as possible. And here's where we start having to make the decision again. If you notice, it's 3 mods almost every time. If you are doing, so we're going to incorporate faction, where before we had that hanging spot on the side, we are now not going to. If we're doing a viral hunter munitions build, faction is going to put in massive amounts of work on those slash ticks. Viral is going to give us damage against unarmored Grenier, and also the status chance is going to boost the slash proc when viral does trigger. So what do we do with the final slot? It's another flex slot, depending on your arcanes. If you have acceleration, then you don't need to mod fire rate, but if you do, Vigilante Fervor is a damn good option here. And again, what you would be looking at once you have the primed mods is down at the bottom, instead of seeing cold magnetic, you would just be seeing pure viral, which is fine. So those are the meta builds if you have a Toxin or a Toxin Envoy, not Toxin Brahma. And then let's cover the last one that could quote unquote be a meta build, if you will. Purely because it does so much goddamn damage. Okay. So we're going to take everything back off, and this is actually going to be a direct hit build. And reason why we're doing this is because the direct hit has multiplicative scaling on it. So this is surprisingly effective. It's going to be a raw damage build. So if you have a Toxin Brahma, what you would do is put a single electricity mod on it. So you could turn the Toxin into electricity, and then we would mod accordingly. So again, crit is Vital Sense, critical delay, reload again, and unironically, it's a Deadhead build. And our Sniper mod. And then we would have a flex slot, depending on if you have Arcane Acceleration. If you do, it goes there. If you don't have Arcane Acceleration, Fire Rate goes here. If you do have Arcane Acceleration, Faction goes here. Just so we get as much damage as possible. If you don't like using Faction, you could also do like a 100 munitions build. You could also do Firestorm for a little bit of extra, ad clear, like clear garbage mods out. But this build, and I will show this one, obviously it's going to be electricity, but just to show the damage, we'll try it with the 190s. Magnetic Electric against Grenier, what could go wrong? Alright, let's get actual Corpus. We need to be able to stack. Alright, we're gonna kill these guys. We will do Corpus. And let me find some guy that won't get one shot. The Director is always a pretty decent one. Obviously not great. And lower it down a little bit. One of the downsides of having a weapon that needs, stacks is the first couple of shots are pretty weak. And these guys do have armor. So this would be an example of a raw damage build, and you can start getting oranges regularly. You can see that the direct hit is causing the trigger. This is just getting a hit on the head while aiming, and you could also see the little clover from getting the direct hit. So the arcane or the galvanized crit chance mod is stacking. And let me show that with 100 munitions. Okay. And we'll see if we can time the direct hit. So we are now firmly in yellow and orange territory. Our crit chance is over 100. Alright, got a nice little 250 mil, 224. Viral's helping us out. So here's the thing with this build, and it's kind of twitchy. It's a little too twitchy for my liking. But okay, so we have the 120%. Okay, that fell off. So we are going to aim... Okay. So when you aim, you get the buff, right? You know, hot takes only. Let me see if I can do this fast enough. If you aim, target, you have the ability to drop the aim. Because the aim only counts, or the stack only requires you to be looking. But it's not going to trigger on the AoE. Hold on. I need to reload. Hold on. Need ammo. Not actually killing. You can actually shoot. And then catch it at the end. And gain the bonus. So I was saying it backwards before. It's not the Kastanas. So aim. And you wouldn't get it. Right? But if you hip fire and then drive it in, you can get it. See it refreshed. Obviously, I would need a kill to get it to stack. But you can still get the bonus. It's a little bit of extra work, but it is a whole lot of crit chance that you can throw on here. To the point where you will start seeing reds kind of regularly. And I mean, like, in terms of seeing them at all. And this is a bit of a build. It moves away from the AoE, so your mileage may vary. But you can do hella damage with this. So let me actually try to do like a decent amount of damage with it. We only got up to a 1/4 mil. That doesn't really count. Let me get a juicy slash proc or something. My pet's being a derp. Hold on. Come here, buddy. There we go. Alright, wait for it to spit. Cool. Alright, 15k. 64k. One tap. Alright, one tap. Okay. 39k. I need something to not die. There we go. 11k, 17k. Now you just want to do a bunch of damage. Let me do Grenier. We'll go back to the exos now that we have stacks. Okay, so 30k, 27k. It's a one shot. It's another one shot. Show me the slash procs, please. It was a 20k. Alright, 129. Okay, so direct damage. 21k. Let's do a headshot. 166k. Yeah, the damage does start to scale a bit. So how you would kind of use this is, if you want to like scale a little more, is you would try to hit like an elite unit in the head and like aim for it, like point blank. So you can keep the crit chance alive. And you would gain the bonus on your AoE, thereby increasing the AoE. And the galvanized aptitude would boost your direct damage so much that you could easily and regularly kill elite units with like one tick a slash or something like that. So this is a strategy. It does a lot of damage for, frankly, a no Riven build. So there is a galvanized scope build for this. Okay. And just to sort of throw this onto the end, I did not build this way either, but I've messed around with this with like a heat build to get, like, it was trying to get like huge heat status ticks, and they got pretty nasty. I got up to like a couple 100k, but not anything to like really write home about. But anyway, this is definitely a build also. Obviously, If we had a Toxin Envoy, we would be doing corrosive. Instead of magnetic, it would be corrosive cold. So the raw damage would increase. Also, viral would then get boosted by viral from the Panzer would then boost the 100 munitions procs. So the damage would go up way more, having, progenitor element issues. Okay, so let me talk about at the very end my build, because it's not something that would have been possible when the Envoy came out. I went for a more raw damage build, and this does perfectly fine on Steel Path. Instead of doing like a Deadhead or a Merciless, I put Serration back on. Reason being is the weapon has innate cold on it, okay, on the radial attack. And you cannot get, unless the weapon has innate cold and a progenitor element, you can't get magnetic cold any other way, right? Because if the weapon has an innate magnetic, you can get cold, but it has to have magnetic on it. Because if it has cold, you have to then consume the cold and combine it with electricity to make magnetic. Therefore, you wouldn't have cold on the weapon anymore. So the only way you can get magnetic cold is if the weapon has magnetic on it. And if you do viral, or you do like a toxin mod, it'll go away and we go to magnetic viral. So this is sort of like a unique opportunity, really, because I have not modded for magnetic. When you get the progenitor element, it counts as like, what is it, the Akbolto or Akbronco, where it has the plus 240% viral. It counts like that. Like, it counts like a magnetic mod, but it contributes toward base damage because it's permanently on the weapon. So you can not combine with it, and then you can get cold magnetic. What this enables us to do is, on a weapon where we have built for raw damage against Corpus and Grenier, is I have created a weapon that is really, really strong against the Corrupted. Because the meta for killing Corrupted is slash Toxin, right? Slash bypasses armor, Toxin bypasses shields. Well, this is the raw damage version of that, which is not a common build you can get. And so what's the point of cold? Well, it serves two purposes. One, because of frostbite, on cold status effect, increase crit damage and multi-shot, and it stacks up to 40. Well, the cold is on the AoE. Even though the cold isn't weighted anywhere near as high as corrosive, if you hit 20 enemies at once, you're going to get a cold status effect somewhere in there, because we're killing with the AoE. So this gets stacked relatively quick, and all you need to do is just hit something with a cold status effect to refresh the timer. And also, on top of that, the cold damage does give you a little bit of additional bonus damage against elite Grenier units, because they're weak to radiation, and if they have alloy armor, and any unit that has alloy armor is super weak to radiation, but is also slightly weak to cold. So this really isn't a bad set of elements to have on in terms of a raw damage build. So magnetic against Corpus, which is fantastic. Normally the gospel is slash toxic, right? I just mentioned that. But the weapon does so much damage that even an hour in to conjunction survival, I'm still 1 and 2 shotting stuff. Like, it just works, right? Or whatever that meme is, Tom Howard. So I've been using this weapon distinctly as a weapon against the Corrupted. It's different. It's not a standard, Tsar build. It's not the Brahma. It's not the Stalta. If I want something different and I want to do a raw damage build where it's stronger earlier in the level scaling. Obviously, this will fall off later. But if I want it to be something stronger earlier in the level scaling, say 2 to 500, this weapon still works, which is phenomenal. Because if the Corpus don't have shields because you one-shot them, you don't care about Toxin. If you can get rid of their shields, and you want to be able to one-bang Grineer, well, Corrosive's the way to go. And there's Viral on the Panzer, so I'm getting the the health damage bonus anyway. So I might as well slot Hunter munitions, because I obviously can't put like Viral Magnetic on the weapon. Even though in this case, if I decide to do that, I literally just take off Stormbringer and I'm back to Viral Magnetic. But if I want the raw damage for both defense types, this ends up working out pretty well against the Corrupted. So it was just a different take. I'm not going to change the weapon, so I tried to talk about the Toxin Progenitor as much as possible. That's the correct answer. And you don't mod for elements at all, and you just go all the way in on... like, you can fit a Riven. Obviously, I don't have Firestorm on here. So you would fit Firestorm and, like, a Riven in the other two slots. But an 8-meter range isn't bad. A lot of weapons need Firestorm to be able to get to an 8-meter range. So I didn't even run that either. So I kept 100 munitions on. I am running acceleration to get my fire rate. If I didn't have acceleration, it would take the place of the faction mod. So this is the build I personally came up with because I wanted something that was raw damage against the Corrupted. I thought it was cool that by doing this, because the weapon has an 8 cold on it, I was able to get cold, corrosive, and magnetic all on the same weapon, which is a really solid combo for raw damage. Because the magnetic covers the Corpus, and corrosive covers Grineer, like ferrite armor, and cold is sort of like copium against alloy armor. But at least it's something. But then on top of all of that, I still have 100 munitions. So I bypass the armor, right? And there's Viral on the Panzer, which is going to give me the raw damage boost to make the weapon relevant for another couple levels, right? So this is my personal build. I wouldn't even say it's optimized. I just thought it was interesting. So I don't know if this is like exactly what the people were asking about in terms of like a late game build, but if you're talking about something that does Steel Path, this is money. Oh, and because Frostbite, because there's one mod missing if you haven't noticed. If you don't have the faction mod but you have acceleration, Vital Sense goes here. Because if you notice, I don't have Vital Sense on because I'm getting it from the Arcane. So the multi-shot is straight up money, right? It's just pure bonus. And when Frostbite stacks, it stacks up to 120. And I have a Vital Sense again. And because of how easy it is when hitting groups of enemies to get a cold proc, it stays stacked up perpetually. It takes a couple of shots to get it stacked all the way up from nothing. But once you have it up, it's super easy to keep. So this was my personal build. I like the idea of having something that was raw damage. They're always fun builds if they're strong enough. You don't have to really wait for a dot, but I didn't mind having 100 munitions be like a slight double back of like getting a dot onto it. And obviously we've got the faction mod increasing raw damage. And also causing 100 munitions to get it scaling as well. So I hope this helps. It was my personal build. I can't say that this is level cap capable. I haven't done it, but I've gone up against level 500s on conjunction survival with this, and it did just fine. Did start having issues with the Thrax though, But because I'm so heavily loaded into corrosive, that's part of the reason why I went 290s instead of doing 60s. Is this like 3 shots acolytes? Um, and has enough raw damage to not be too bothered by overguard. So that was another part of it, is like the extra damage allows you to raw damage and overpower overguard, and it did just fine. So this was my personal build. It's obviously not like a game breaking meta build, but it was just my personal take on it. I like the magnetic and the cold. It feels pretty good. If I need more damage, obviously I'll prime something, right? So anyway, I hope this helps. This was my interpretation. I don't use the meta build because when I finally built this and really, really messed around with it, my final progenitor element to get to 60% was magnetic. And that's when I realized what the combo was. And I kind of left it, but then Frostbite came out, and I actually kind of started using this weapon. So I hope this helps. My personal take. But anyway, thank you for watching if you got this long. Have a blessed day.